Joburg Mayor Dr. Mpho Phalatse is also on a drive to recoup billions of rand owed to the city. The municipality's Operation Buya Mthetho is looking to collect about 38 billion rand in unpaid bills from residents, businesses and government entities. That campaign is quite reminiscent of the initiative undertaken by the city of Tshwane, where millions of rand have been recouped there. A delegation led by Phalatse visited Sandton City Mall yesterday, which is responsible for the biggest debt of about 158 million rand. For more on this, let's bring in the Mayor herself, who joins us via our video link. And Madam Mayor, it's great to see you on this Thursday morning. Thanks very much indeed for making time. Incidentally, the city of Johannesburg actually kicked off their campaign before the city of Tshwane. For whatever reason, Tshwane appears to have gotten a whole lot more traction. But let me ask you how successful your drive has been so far.
Our drive has been very successful. It's just been less public than the Tshwane drive. And this was, on my part, it was intentional. You know, when we launched Operation Buya Mthetho just over 2 weeks ago, I did announce that there's quite a lot of government departments that owe us money, as well as big business, including residents who have capacity to pay but choose not to pay for their services. That's mainly water, electricity, sewer, as well as waste removal and property-related taxes. Now, I had the option on the day to go with the cameras to do the cut-offs, but I decided let's give people a chance to organize their finances and start paying. Let's see if they can start paying. What I did do, though, on the day of the presser is I announced how much is owed to us by some government departments, particularly the provincial government, which owes us in excess of 800 million rands. And I felt comfortable doing that because I knew that, you know, they've got capacity to pay. I know what their balance sheet looks like. I know how their finances flow, etc. With the private businesses, I really wanted to give them an opportunity to come forward and pay or make arrangements to pay if they can't give us everything that they owe us at the same time. And the reason for this is because, you know, we're the economic hub of South Africa, and I really want to see our businesses back on their feet after the difficult 2 years that we've all had. I want to see them grow with us and help us build our city and help us restore the many jobs that were lost in the last 2 years. So it's not as if I wanted to go out and shame them, but unfortunately some of them have not been forthcoming in spite of all the time that we've given them, all the notices and all the attempts on our part to reach out. And unfortunately now we're having to go out and cut them.
As you can imagine, there's a whole lot of interest from ordinary citizens who are watching what's happening in both cities. What's your response to individuals who are now pointing out that what we're seeing take place here is a shift, if you like, in the center when we think about who is responsible for, call it, the struggles we're having with our grid, at least when it comes to recouping money. In the past, it almost appeared that the narrative has been that it is the townships and the informal settlements that are responsible for non-payment. But here we're dealing with, you know, establishments in, you know, very affluent environments that have millions in unpaid accounts.
Well, we all belong to one ecosystem. I think it's important to point that out. And it's important to also point out that there's different constituencies within this ecosystem. You've got residents who cannot afford to pay. And therefore, we can never blame those residents for the backlogs in our infrastructure and in service delivery in general, because they simply don't have the money. They're either unemployed or just living in poverty. For those people, there is provision made through our expanded social package where they can access free basic services, including water and electricity and many other social offerings that we have as a city. You also have people who were doing well, were affluent, were good rate payers, but because of the economic decline in the last 2 years, particularly due to COVID, a lot of them have gone under, their businesses have gone under, there's been liquidations, you know, there's been job losses and all kinds of negative socioeconomic impacts of the pandemic. Now, those ones also are categorized differently, and what we've done is we will be tabling a council report to ask for the reopening of the debt rehabilitation program, which says you've not been paying us in the recent past, but we believe that you can be rehabilitated into being a good rate payer. We want to give you an opportunity to do that by writing off 50% of your historical debt and giving you 12 months opportunity to start paying us consistently, after which we will write off the remaining 50% of your historical debt. That's another category. But you've got people who can afford to pay and are simply delinquent and simply refuse to pay. Now, those ones are the ones that we're going after with the cutoffs, and those ones can be blamed for some of the service delivery backlogs and infrastructure backlogs that we are seeing. Of course, we also have the billing queries that are outstanding. You can't expect someone to pay their bill if there is no agreement on what the bill should look like. Those queries are also through our internal processes being dealt with so that we can bring that money in as well.
Would it be fair, Mayor, to say that it's actually the affluent suburbs and the affluent communities in the city of Johannesburg that owe the lion's share to the city and not necessarily townships and informal settlements?
Well, yes, I mean, proportionally, of course, they're owing in the millions per establishment, whereas in the townships, for instance, per household, you won't have a debt that amounts to that much. But there are still people in the townships who can afford to pay, who are gainfully employed and simply choose not to.
The question, I guess, then becomes, why did it take so long before drives like the ones we're seeing in the past couple of days to target these affluent areas in a context where, as you've mentioned, their accounts have been able to run into the millions in arrears?
Well, you will remember that when we were in government between 2016 and 2019, that's when Operation Buya Mthetho was actually launched. I don't know why it was stopped from 2019 until the end of the political term of office. But as you can see, we've relaunched it quite early in our term of office. We've only been in office for 2 months, and we're going after that money and we're bringing it in.
Right. And I'm not quite sure which part of the city of Johannesburg you live in, Mayor, but I'm sure you might have come across already complaints about the massive power outage that we experienced yesterday. I happen to be a victim, but that aside, it does point to other issues around the provision of electricity in the city. Cable theft is still a massive problem. It's one thing to try to recoup money in unpaid bills, but it's another to ensure that those who are paying their bills have uninterrupted supply, load shedding aside. How are you dealing with that problem?
So the outages that we have, again, are a result of multiple factors. One, yes, you've pointed out theft and vandalism of our infrastructure, which is a big problem, which will be dealt with, again, through Buya Mthetho, where we are in the process of establishing a specialized unit to deal with that. We just need to gather intelligence on the ground and make sure that we apprehend those who are responsible and that there are real consequences. And we're hoping that the SAPs and our prosecuting authorities will work with us in that regard. But what we're also realizing is that there are areas in the city that don't have electricity supply, for instance, our informal settlements. And what they then do is they connect illegally to the grid, causing outages for our formalized areas. Now, that should be dealt with in 2 ways. One, yes, we should enforce the law, but at the same time, we should be looking at how we're going to be supplying those areas with electricity. So parallel solutions to that, and those plans are already underway. In March, we'll be hosting the Energy in Daba, where we'll be inviting everybody in the energy space to come and really help us resolve the energy crisis in Johannesburg. Johannesburg needs to be load shedding free. Johannesburg needs affordable energy because electricity has become too unaffordable with Eskom monopoly. We need to invite more players to drive down costs, and we need to do so in a clean and a green manner. So I'm really excited about this event that we're about to host next month, which will see us turn around the energy supply situation in Johannesburg in totality, whether through law enforcement or through increased capacity, increased supply, affordability, so that everybody can have access.
To be fair, Mayor, I can imagine a lot of disillusioned residents in the city of Johannesburg aren't really interested in more events to try and, I guess, carve out a way forward. In a context where, for instance, the cable theft problem has been around literally for years, would it be fair to say that the city is actually incapacitated in its ability to actually deal with this problem?
I won't say the city is incapacitated. Like I said, law enforcement involves multiple players. The JMPD can work with communities on the ground, gather intelligence. We arrest people all the time.
Yeah. How does that explain the problem recurring, though, Mayor? Apologies for interrupting you there.
Because there needs to be... that if you give me an opportunity, please. So what I was about to say before I was interrupted was that what we then do is we hand over cases to the SAPs. and we trust that the SAPs will see the cases through prosecution and that there will be convictions. But what we're seeing is that people come out and that these become repeat offenders. Therefore, we've realized that as much as we can arrest people daily, it keeps on recurring. It keeps on happening. What needs to happen is we need to address the supply gap at the same time while appealing to the SAPs and the NPA to work with us to decisively deal with crime.
I take it because of that issue, there's no telling how much longer residents in the city of Johannesburg will have to deal with a problem like this.
Well, no, we can't tell with absolute certainty, but what we can tell is that there is a positive trajectory, and the event that you're discounting is quite an important one because it's an information gathering event. We'll be able to learn through that event what technologies are available out there, what solutions are available out there. You're bringing industry players, you're bringing academics, innovators, suppliers, all kinds of stakeholders around the table to have an all-important conversation which will lead to solutions that we can then implement on the ground. It's a very important event, and we believe that it's going to set us off on the right trajectory.
Right. As the cliche goes, I guess only time will tell about that, Mayor. And I'm not discounting it at all. I'm just, I guess, getting to the head of many people who must be watching this conversation and what they may be thinking. Another important issue I'm hoping to get your take on, Mayor. Operation Buya has made headlines in various ways, for better or for worse, across the city. What's the official word from your office about this particular operation?
We do not support any form of lawlessness in dealing with any problem in the city. There are legal ways to deal with issues, and that's why we've deployed our JMPD officers to work with SAPs to try and deal with this issue. It is lawless, it is not supported by the city, and we will continue to fight that lawlessness.
Dr. Mpho Phalatse is the Executive Mayor in the city of Johannesburg. Mayor, thanks very much indeed for your time.